Tales from the Tap. My name is Frankie, and this is my co-host.
And the man.
We are excited to talk to you about not only the new pack announcement, but some standard as well.
Yeah, what's it called? We have standard coming up, obviously with the RCQs, but also we have our winter box tomorrow that you're going to be playing in, I assume. A lot of people showing up for that. I'm actually surprised how many people are excited for standard, because when I announced it, Todd and I were more or less like, oh, it's going to be kind of mid. We already tried running standard once before with Midnight Hunt, and it was pretty fun back then, and people still were like, we could get like 6 people for FNM. To be fair, we get like 2 pods every Friday night for limited, which is nice. But this time around, it was like I'm running out of singles. I had no triumphs left, except for like maybe one that we just had a ton of. Everybody's like, do you have this card available? I'm like, I wish. Somebody just got it from you. I know you were looking for cards from me.
Yeah, I think that you're the worst because we're podcast co-hosts. You didn't give me the like, hey, I've been telling everyone. So you're like, standard. And I was like, okay, I should probably get my cards together. Oh, look. Well, you have nothing.
In my defense, I thought you were listening to our show where I was like, standard is awesome. I'm obsessed. And I have actually been finally playing a lot. I know I did say last time on the show we were going to be playing a lot of standard, and we just played a ton of limited. I have been playing a lot more standard. I have like almost every deck built on Arena, so I can confidently talk about pretty much every archetype and how the matchups go. Although I wish I had more experience, I think. I've been kind of focused on Modern a little bit with the RCQ we just had. We could talk about that since you top 8'd.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I ran back Mono Green Tron. It had been probably about 3 or 4 weeks, and as Stan has mentioned many a times, a couple days before, I was like, hey, I need to get some reps. Help me. It's been a while. And yeah, so we just ran it back. I decided to have a couple changes.
Sure.
Knowing our store and us talking about like prepping for the metagame, I thought, okay, I know that Jeremy is going to play Burn.
Yeah.
I can expect that a few other people may play Burn. And I know that at least 2 people will play Wreck. Tommy, unfortunately, couldn't make it. But I was like, definitely have Scam.
But I think Anthony was there, and he plays a ton of Scam.
Yeah. Anthony did play Scam. Will Kowalczyk, who I faced in round 3, was playing Scam.
And Will is very good.
Yeah. And so I teched heavily for that. I saw Wormcoil Engine in a few lists that were doing well, playing 3 instead of 2. And right, if they drop down Fury and I have Wormcoil Engine, I'm like, swing.
Yeah.
Do it.
Actually, I really liked your list. When I saw that you were playing 3 Wormcoils and then you managed to sneak up Haywire Might into the main board, I was like, this is really cool. I really like the list. I was actually really disappointed because I know you didn't have a good time in top 8 because you were in a rush to go to your show. But I was like, man, if I was not the store owner and playing in this top 8 with this Tron list, or not even the top 8, just like the whole tournament, I would have been like undefeated. I don't think anybody would have. Scam was kind of free. 4-color, which there was a ton of beans everywhere. Kind of unlosable for Tron. I mean, obviously now with beans it's a little bit harder because they have way more card advantage, but getting through the 4-color decks, usually not that hard for Tron. The 3 Wormcoils, so good against Scam. The Dismembers in the main, super good against Scam. Being able to beat Burn, still kind of rough, but the main board Haywire Might does kind of help with that. Although there was only ended up two Burn players, I think, in the whole field. Only one in the top 8, so not too hard to dodge. And in theory, you only needed to be like 3 wins for top 8, so because it was 19, 20 people, I think. So for 5 rounds, even if you do lose to Burn, you can still like 4-1. I was like, man, this would have been the time to play Tron.
Yeah, so for reference, I round 1 faced Shadow. I then faced... Wrote it down.
All right. I do remember you playing against Beans in the top 8. So, and then round 4, you played against Scam, I believe, which was Will Kowalczyk.
Yeah, round 4 was Scam.
And then 5, you split with Jeremy.
Yes, 5 split with Jeremy. Round 3 was Amulet Titan.
Oh, yeah. That was Brandon, right?
Yeah.
And that's a rough matchup, too. So, Brandon's pretty good at playing Amulet Titan. And the fact that you were able to get that win against a matchup that I would consider pretty difficult for Tron is a big deal. And then beating Scam, which you were teched for, but still, Will Kowalczyk is a phenomenal player, playing one of the best decks probably the best deck in the format. I think we still agree.
Yeah, the one that I lost to was round 2, and that was against Alex playing the blue black.
Oh yeah, blue black control. And honestly, blue black control can be really tough for Tron sometimes. It doesn't seem like it because it's like, oh, it's a control deck. They go late game. Tron wants to go late game, but blue black just has some of these play patterns that you sleep on. And if they have Commandeer, forget about it. I've lost to blue black online so many times just because of Commandeer stealing a One Ring or stealing a Karn. It just feels terrible. But
and Alex in game 2 absolutely had the nuts. It was like turn 2, spreading seas one of my lands. The next turn, spreading seas another Tron land. I go to hard cast Karn, counter with Force of Negation. Then I played something else, and it was like Spell Pierce. It was like just perfect. That's 5 turns in a row, and I was like, well, okay.
That's just how that deck works, honestly.
Yeah.
And it feels terrible because like you're playing Tron, and you're like more or less kind of a fair deck, especially without active Tron. And that deck, the blue black mid range control, whatever you want to call it, really preys on mid range. And so if they can get you in a spot where you're getting counterspelled and you don't have Tron, they're just going to get you with Bowmasters and Murktides. It just feels terrible. But Alex is a great player, and I was actually telling him, I was like, I'm glad you're playing this list because you're always playing mono black. This is more of a U style deck, and it's very strong. Nobody plays it. It's like top 15, I think, on Goldfish. Everybody was playing it when the One Ring first came out.
Yeah.
And then it just fell off with Wilds of Eldraine, which I think is kind of a testament to how strong Up the Beanstalk is, but at the same time, blue black is a pretty hard deck to pilot, so I can see why people are turned off by that and rather play something more like easy, if you will, like drawing a bunch of cards and then kind of fumbling your way through 4 mana with Omnath, do whatever you want. You know, it's a lot easier than blue black control.
Yeah, I just think that unless if you can like counter the Omnath and counter the life gain. When I played against 5 color in the one game that I did play, it was like casting Lorien Revealed with Beans out to draw 4, and like the Bowmaster players are like, hey.
Yeah, right. Scam is still scam, and Beanstalk in theory helps against scam, but I don't know if the 4 color lists are doing it, in my opinion. I know a lot of people online are really high on 4 color. I'm still not into the deck. Although one of my friends was playing it, I think it was Greg Meyer, was like, I just cast Lorien Revealed with 3 Beanstalks in play, and he went, draw 6. Like, that's crazy. It is pretty interesting to see how many cards you can draw with the deck, and I guess with Endurance, there's like ways to not draw yourself out.
To loop it.
So it is kind of a thing to worry about, because I know on Arena, I actually mill people out a lot. Wilds of Eldraine format, limited, already, like you can mill people. But the standard format, there's a lot of ways to just get there with mill, especially if you're playing like, so sometimes with Golgari Rock, I'll have like Breach, the Multiverse. And that is like each player mills 10 cards after they already did their Atrexa trigger and they've drawn like 400 cards with Up the Beanstalk. So mill wins against me a lot, and I win against it a lot, even though we're not playing mill decks. Although some people do have Base the Perfected Mind, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
With the mill ability.
Yeah.
I have lost to that a couple times in the Esper decks.
Yeah, Base is at like 15 cards.
Yeah.
If you do any amount of ticking up, it's like, okay, that's a lot of deck.
Or if it's just 2 copies. Like I had a guy go like Jace minus 3 or 4 to keep it alive. I kill it. He goes another Jace. And I'm like, all right, well, start grinding him out. I'm like, okay, cool. Finally got rid of all his stuff. I'm going to win this game. He goes Breach. I'm like, whatever. He didn't get anything. And then I go, my turn. I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm out of cards. Whoops. So yeah, that's kind of funny. But I kind of like it. I don't know. It makes people more pressured on their clock. You know, you're going to draw a lot of cards, but you will lose the game if you don't find a way to win.
Yeah. Well, wrapping up RCQ, I felt really good to make top 8. I very unpracticed on the deck and face like Titan, which is an unfavorable matchup, and win, and face Scam on a really good Scam player, and then win. You know, when I got to top 8, I was like, I have to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like.
Yeah, I remember you losing in top 8 and me going like, hey, you lost early. Do you just have to leave right away? And you're like, I'm actually out the door. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll talk about the podcast later.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I am already 10 minutes late per usual.
Which they're used to, so no worries.
Yeah.
Frank, if you guys don't know, perpetually late for everything. But
I'm just not my friend.
He is worth waiting for. What's it called? I think one of my favorite moments with RCQ, just to like wrap it up, in the final, one of the players, this is so funny. Todd came to me and we had to like not giggle at the counter because we were like over there and they were playing over there. So one of the players, I don't know what happened, but Hardened Scales did a trigger. I don't know what the guy thought the trigger was, but he was seeing ghosts. Starts fetching in response, like I have to fetch. Starts searching through his deck, and he's kind of a slow player. I think you played against him in the top 8, so he's pretty slow.
Yes.
And he was searching through his deck, and then pauses and looks at Kai, our judge, and he's like, "Hey, I thought this guy's ability was a different ability, and so I misunderstood and started fetching. I would like to undo this fetch." And Kai's looking at him like, "My brother in Christ." We are in the fetch. You're searching. And then the guy goes, I kid you not, he goes, well, theoretically the deck is random, so it doesn't matter. We can just shuffle it, and it's the same thing. And Kai goes, well, even if I agreed with your logic, you have cascaded this game multiple times, so the deck isn't random. I suggest you finish resolving your fetch, and let's move on with the game. And it was just a funny call. The guy ended up winning, but I was just like, wow. I think he lost that game, though. That fetch ended up punishing him, but it's like, what an interesting call. I guess you have to call and see if the judge gives it to you. You know, you never know. Maybe the judge gives you the play, and then you get to get the judge call that's like talked about on Reddit. Like, I can't believe they said that, but hey, whatever. I walked away with a W. I have seen a lot of those, but it is what it is. Another thing I wanted to touch on, we talked about bans last podcast, and I think we were right. With no changes, and WotC, the Giga Chads, refused to elaborate. They were like, no changes, here's some play packs. More on that later. The no changes I thought was cool, especially for Pioneer, because we agreed Pioneer was pretty brewable, pretty balanced. I know people don't like Mono Green. I know people don't like Fable the Mirror Breaker. It's just like, yes, we don't like the decks, maybe. I mean, I don't hate them, but if you don't like the deck, doesn't mean that necessarily that's a reason to ban it. And they agreed. And then at Nerd Rage top 8 for Pioneer, in the 10K they just had, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, no Mono Green decks top 8'd. And I think very few Rakdos decks. It was a lot of mixed up decks. I remember seeing the enchantments deck, like Boggles. Yeah, it was like pretty interesting. Some of the cards that they had in the list were really cool. If you guys want the top 8 deck list, just hit us up on Discord. I can get them for you. Those were some really cool decks, and it just kind of is a testament to how brewable Pioneer is, and we'll see what it looks like with 2 or 3 more standard sets, and then RCQ season in Q2, Q3 next year.
Yeah, it will be in Q2 because January through whatever, it's like 2.5 months ish.
Yeah, so
is going to be.
For our RCQ, if we run it ideally, it might not have the Wild West set, but it should have Karlov Manor and Caverns of Ixalan, which is kind of a big deal. I'm sure those sets are going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. And just I think in general, Pioneer really cool. I was thinking about though what you said with Atrexa and how potentially she could get banned in Standard. So when we talk about Standard later, I'll give you more feedback on that. But overall, I think she's fine for the format right now. But I can definitely see what you're saying, where sometimes she can feel like maybe this is the only outlier card here.
Yeah, I think that if I don't know, Leyline Binding is so strong, I think there are a lot of decks that are playing Leyline Binding, so like now. But I think that it is on the edge of getting
right. I mean, it could only be a matter of time before maybe Caverns of Ixalan allows something too crazy for it, or something else combos with it. We'll see how it goes. Also, big news. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, but Frankie just made Mythic and Limited, which is really hard unless you have a lot of gems. So, congrats.
My poor wallet. But yes, I'm very excited to finally get to the top for Limited. We both mentioned that we've been grinding to want to just like prove like, hey, we're not only do we talk about Magic, do we play a lot of Magic, good at Magic.
Yeah.
And that was like a big stepping stone for
Right.
right. I want to win an RCQ and go on off to an RC and play there, but this was another like, getting Mythic.
Yeah.
Now it'll be double Mythic.
Right.
Arena Open, and one of us we're gonna be like, we won $2,000. Not yet, but we'll get there.
I wish I could play the Arena Opens. They're always on the weekends,
days.
and I have to work. It sucks. For me, it sucks. But like I said before, I'm a facilitator of Magic. I am good at it. I would consider myself good at Magic, but I facilitate more than I get to play. So Frank, while he's in Mythic, I'm definitely hard stuck Plat and Limited right now. And I switched to Standard, so I'm not getting that many more reps in for Wilds of Eldraine, unfortunately. I might not even get to Mythic before Caverns comes out, unfortunately. But yeah, like Frank was saying, we want to get to double Mythics and try to make that a thing. Just because, one, it's a fun challenge, but two, it really kind of pushes you to learn the formats. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing this, but Standard actually has been kind of rough. There are some really tight games. If you make minor misplays, Standard is punishing. It used to be a format where you could make a mistake, but more or less the matchups kind of decide it. It's not. It's any deck can beat any deck. It doesn't matter. But if you make a misplay and your opponent punishes it or has the correct cards to punish it, it's going to be over pretty quick.
Yeah, and when I think back to like Friends of Ravnica all the way through Amonkhet, like around there, I thought games were grindy, like just grindy games. And now, like cards like Shieldred and Atraxa in the format, it's like, okay, this needs an answer now, or like and cards like Fairy Mastermind being like, I'm going to draw, and we're both going to draw an extra card, and I'm going to gain more life, and you're going to lose life because of the Shieldred. It's like interactions are getting like tight, and some of the cards are really powerful.
Yeah, it is actually funny, specifically with Shieldred. I know for a while people didn't like her, but now it feels like kind of everybody loves her because she, obviously drawing cards is not like a crazy mechanic. It's arguably one of the strongest things you can do in the game. If you get a chance to draw cards, you want to draw cards. But what I find funny is there are so many ways, every color, to abuse the fact that you're going to gain life from card draw. Raffine is like, who cares? Let's just connive a bunch. Mosswood Dread Knight, where he's like, normally you'd be losing life, now you're gaining life. And every kind of color combo with Shieldred is like, oh, we love her. We love Shieldred. She's letting us draw cards and, keep the game going. Yeah. And so I've been kind of enjoying the Shieldred gameplay. I do want to see more like Besiege the Mirror in Standard. Unfortunately, we haven't been seeing too much of it. And Agatha's Soul Cauldron, although it is very powerful and modern, and I would say even probably Pioneer, even though we haven't really seen a lot of it, not really that much in Standard. We talked about a couple decks that were going to be playing it, but just not seeing a lot of it, I guess. But we can talk more about that later. For now, I think we get into some housekeeping.
So, we know new patrons this week. Again, we'd really... Cheers. But regardless, we're still upping our content game, as you're seeing on our first video podcast. Very excited about that. If you want to support our podcast and get some additional perks, we are posting more and more and more about the decks that we're playing, screenshots from our games. Dan's doing coaching sessions. I'm happy to start jumping in on those, especially for Limited. I think we had more people come into the store and be like, oh man, I want to play more Limited. I want to get better at Limited. And I'm like,
we were having multiple pods
on my way.
And I mentioned the podcast, and people are actually like, oh, that's awesome. Check it out.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Really appreciate you guys listening too. So we're really grateful about that. You can also check us out on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It's easier for me to say Twitter. It's easier for me to type X on my computer. So kind of like both. That's the platform we post the most on, though. So if you're not in the Discord and you don't want to be in the Discord for whatever reason, that's fine. You can always follow us on Twitter. We'll post pretty much anything there that's important about the podcast or stuff we're doing. If you want to join our Discord, though, completely free. You can get access to our channels to talk about different deck lists, different formats, whatever. If you need advice or if you need help with stuff, I'm usually in there. I can post you some deck lists or feedback or links to articles you can't find for whatever reason. Like the Nerd Rage top 8 I was talking about earlier. And if you are in the Discord already and you want to sub to Patreon, we have extra perk channels that are hidden for those that are patrons that have bonuses, and we will try to prioritize for the coaching sessions that we talked about and helping you with maybe sideboard guides or just deck list adjustments in general. And we'll even play your jank if you are at the right tier on the Patreon. We'll play your decks on stream now that we're starting to do the streaming thing as well. With that being said, please follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tales from the Tap.
Yep.
And we're trying to get affiliate soon, so if we can get 100, 200 followers, we'd really appreciate it. And Twitch just announced multi-streaming, so if you're not a Twitch user, we'll try to facilitate including YouTube, Kick, Facebook, if we can, whatever our computers allow us to do. But they do allow multi-streaming now, so that's kind of a big deal, and we will try to get more content out to you guys in the different platforms that are convenient for you.
And shout out to Delta Cashew, also in our Discord.
Yeah.
Right after our episode released from last week, we got a follow on Twitch. I got the notification via email, and I was like, someone listened.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What's it called? Otherwise, yeah, you can reach us out through email, talesfromthetappod@gmail.com. If you need to reach us for any reason or inquiries, you can always email us there, and Frank's usually pretty good about checking it. With that being said, we got some big stuff to talk about. I wrote a lot about this because I'm multi-involved as a person who loves Magic and plays, but also as a store owner who has to make his livelihood on the products. There has been a new pack announcement, and that's the first time that has happened in a while. And it's kind of a big deal because that usually doesn't happen. It happened 2 times in 30 years, and now one more time. Presumably the last time, we'll see. What's it called? Before I jump into it, did you have anything else to say?
No, I'm just really excited to talk about this because I think that unlike other people on Twitter who are yelling about it and some other podcasters who are talking about it, you specifically have a unique angle being a store owner. So I think that this is going to be really insightful, not just from a Magic playing perspective, but also from all the people that are like, I want to own a Magic store that come into the shop.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely have a multifaceted, angled approach on why I like certain things about it and why I don't like certain things about it. But in general, I think it's more good than bad. So let's just jump into it, and I'll start giving you guys the breakdown. The main thing is that there's going to be a new booster type. So we've had regular boosters, and then we jumped into collector boosters and regular boosters, and then they eventually added set, and then they made regular boosters draft boosters, and now they are going to be combining set and draft into play boosters. So that's kind of cool, and the logic behind it is because apparently WotC has a team called Studio X that just all their job is to provide data. We study the game and study the players and do surveys and whatnot, and supposedly they get data. I kind of think it's a meme because the data is stuff to me that would be super obvious, but it is what it is. I'm ready to be hired whenever. If you guys are, listening out there, Mark Rosewater, big fan. But anyways, yeah, so they're saying, more people open the boxes than draft the box. And this was around 2018 when they made that discovery. Pretty big discovery. I can't believe it. But yeah, 99% of players open their boxes and rip their packs. Couldn't have guessed that. Anyways, that made them kind of think, if not everybody's using the boxes for limited, maybe we should provide an outlet for the players that just want to rip boxes a better experience. And that's where the set booster was derived from. So the collector booster aside, we won't really talk about those today. The collector boosters, rather. The set boosters were designed for players to have a unique experience with opening packs and a better experience, quote unquote. And for the most part, I would say it was a pretty successful endeavor. Unfortunately, it was a bit too successful. So that's where the qualms started arriving. So players were really satisfied with set boosters, but that started pushing draft boosters out. And that's kind of where we end up with WotC's problems with the draft versus the set booster. So set boosters outsell draft boosters by insane margins. I think it's 99 to 1 or more, like maybe 99.9 to
Yeah,
to
it was
0.1.
over triple.
Yeah, it's insane. And most of the reason why draft boosters even sell at all is because of limited. So we're like in a pretty high player dense area, so we don't really have a problem running limited. But a lot of areas they just don't have it. So Watsy's got that issue, and then that exacerbates itself because one, it's going to cause inventory issues, but two, I think long term they said Studio X found that their data was showing draft boosters will soon just get abandoned entirely, which kind of means death for limited, which is kind of weird. But we have been saying on the podcast a bunch how limited is really fun, and the last maybe 2 years of limited has been the best limited of all time compared to like 30 plus years of Magic. So that can be really scary, and these inventory issues it's not just like, for example, my store. I have to like guess how many draft boosters I'm going to get, and then guess how many set boosters I'm going to get. And then the spoiler season starts. So we kind of have our numbers down. That's fine. We always get like at least a case of draft because we want to draft for you guys, and we can always reorder more draft boosters later, but we want to draft, run pre-release, etc. There are some regions, I'm not familiar with which, but let's just say like Latin America or something, or Puerto Rico, somewhere where like distribution is as convenient, that have to pick. They didn't get draft and set. They were like, we only get one. So we're going set because those are the ones that sell. And they just entirely lost their draft boosters. And so they effectively entirely lost their access to limited. And a lot of these areas were just trying to run limited events with set boosters. That kind of doesn't work. For one, you have much less playable cards in a set booster. And two, the set boosters were catered towards people opening the packs. So they're way, way unbalanced. This also caused confusion for customers at the door. I don't know if this sounds familiar to you guys, but how many times do you maybe hang on an LGS and you see a new person come in and they maybe start asking you questions about the game, and then you have to start explaining to them, oh yeah, set boosters. Oh, well, they're kind of new, but they're not that new, but it's like they're not for drafting. And so it's like such a headache. I think I had a customer last week. They came in and they were like, I want Phyrexia All Will Be One. I didn't know that was out. I just saw it. It's so cool. I love Phyrexians. I want to buy that. I'm like, oh, here's your set box, bro. Have a good one. Answered their questions. Had a great time. Smiling on the way out. And as they're leaving, I hear them go, oh man, I can't wait to go home and draft this. And I'm just like, you know, like I wanted to stop them at the door, but they were already leaving, and just be like, you know what? I'm sure they're new, so they're going to have fun no matter what. But that is such a problem, and it happens all the time. This is not just like one story, and this is just my shop. This happens constantly. New person comes in, oh, I love Magic. There's so many different products, and you have to like explain to them all the differences. And so I got kind of good at speed running, like here's the stuff that matters, here's the stuff that doesn't matter. Go. Or like, what kind of player are you? Tell me about yourself. I will find you the product you want. Which is where the expertise comes in for like why you would come here towards like going to Amazon. With that being said, that wasn't even the only issue. So draft boosters and set boosters existing, Watsy found that the fact that there are two boosters kind of makes them each less desirable in a way. Like, oh, I want to draft. I don't like set boosters. I'm a draft player. Well, Magic players don't consider themselves limited players or constructed players. They consider themselves Magic players. And set boosters have more value. So, like, let's say you play limited. Oh, but the prize support is draft. That sucks. You know, like how many times have you had that happen?
Yes, all the time as a draft player. Yes.
These things kind of start compounding and the issues stack. And it's so funny because when they first announced set boosters, I remember talking to Todd, like, why wouldn't they just update the draft boosters? They should just make one booster that's better for opening that still drafts. Lo and behold, they're doing my thing. Like I said, I'm ready to be hired whenever.
And what's so funny to me about this whole thing is that the way that Wizards has positioned this, they position this as we are going to save limits. But it just makes me think of the hot dog skit, where it's like we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the ones that did this.
Right.
And Magic players generally, right, and I'm this way. I'm very much this way. Dan, should I keep Beseech the Mirror or should I sell it back to the store? And when you are buying a box because you're like, oh, I might want to get some value out of this, you go for set boosters because it's just better EV for you.
Right.
And Magic players want better EV, period. So it's like, this is a problem that, like, really they create.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a testament to, like, how difficult it can be to run, like, a large business where, like, there's different meetings, different parts of the business do different things. So, like, Studio X is like their information, like, all we do is data mine Magic, but that's all they do. And then they have R&D for, like, the bands, and then, like, the design team for, like, how the format's going to look, what the cards are going to look like. Mark Rosewater to kind of, like, be their spokesperson. So there's so many parts to it. I can sympathize with the difficulty, but at the same time, like we're saying, it's like some of this stuff isn't that difficult, guys. I could have emailed this to you. You could literally call me. I am a WPN store. So yeah, with that being said, sympathy where it's due, but at the same time, $1 billion company, figure it out. Yeah.
Too poor.
The last major issue they had, which I think is a good issue and something to definitely want to respect, is that WotC was saying customers are not getting the full experience. You go, oh, I want to play limited, so I'm going to get draft boxes, but now you don't get to maybe get the art cards that you might thought were cool, or you don't get to experience the list, which it's actually pretty good. The list is not bad. Or maybe some stores do box toppers only for set boosters, although I think they eventually made it so that all boosters were buy a box promos, but at first it was just set boosters, so it was like, well, what if I buy collectors? Those are more expensive. A lot of hiccups along the way, and I do agree it is better for people to be able to experience everything. Like, if I buy a box because I want to rip it, I should also be able to draft it. That was like the whole meme for 20 years. It was, hey guys, I bought a box, let's draft it, and then I'm going to keep my rares, but let's just play. Or maybe you can just, like, divvy up the box amongst your friends. Now that that's a thing, we might see more of that with the play boosters, because let's be real, boxes are pretty expensive, so not everybody can afford it, especially if you're a kid just getting into the game or you're in high school. I mean, Magic can be expensive, and you shouldn't be using all your high school 10 hour per week job money on Magic, as much as I'd like that here. You should be saving some of that money, maybe paying your car note, you know? So if people can go in like, oh, the four of us can split a box, you know, then we can just play some sealed or whatever. Now the packs are going to be way more in tune with that. So how do we fix the draft versus the set problem? This is kind of where the article goes with the announcement, but because set boosters were so much more popular by a large margin, they made the obvious decision. I say obvious, but sometimes they don't figure it out. To go from the set booster up. So they're like, okay, we're going to upgrade the set booster to be playable as opposed to trying to fix the draft booster, which honestly makes a ton of sense. When it was just regular boosters and they announced set boosters, like I said before, I told Tom, man, they should have just made one pack. But in my head, it's hard to picture how you turn that draft pack into what the play packs are like. Right. It's a lot easier to build on the foundation of what the set booster was. So I think they did a pretty good job. There were some issues, though, with the approach that they had to solve. One, there's not enough slots. So we talked about this already. Set boosters only had 12 playable cards because they had the art card, they had the token, etc. And I think there's also 15 cards in the pack instead of 16 if you count every actual piece of cardboard.
Yeah, draft boosters.
Yeah, because they also had like the token slot or whatever.
Right.
So the other thing was that the colors were very unbalanced. We talked about how set boosters, and actually a lot of people didn't know this. I remember mentioning this in a store a couple of times, and the limited players were like, what? Which is kind of a testament to customers not getting the full experience. But there are connected cards and themed cards, is what they call them, in the set booster. Doesn't matter anymore, but the gimmick is that set boosters have 1 to 6 commons or uncommons. You can get all uncommons or all commons. But when you get them, they try to theme them in like, oh, these are all humans. These are all cats. These are all enchantment-related cards. So they all have a theme or synergy or play pattern that they're going for.
So when you're opening the pack and cracking it open and you see this theme, you get extra excited.
Exactly.
More serotonin.
And that really, although their Studio X metrics said that was the least exciting part of the set pack, people did like, oh, that's pretty cool, especially new players. I would see it in the store with new players. They're like, oh, these cards are so good together. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. But that is really bad for limited. So another issue they had was that the ratios on the rarities were just way off. Like I said, 1 to 6 uncommons or 1 to 6 commons. Mix and match both. Up to 4 rares, but like what slots were the rares was weird. And commons are really important for limit. The fact that you're not guaranteed on commons in the set packs is really bad. So that's obviously something they had to address. So with that being said, we have an image in front of us of what the new packs are going to look like, so we can read it off for you guys. I think we're going to try to get it on screen for you as well. But this is what the play boosters are going to look like. And they're draftable set packs that have up to 4 rares, but they're going to be just called play boosters, I think. I think over time people are just going to call them packs. Like, let's be real. It's just packs. Back to packs. Yes, I like that. Back to packs.
I'll make the t-shirt now. Don't worry.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, we're going to work on the shirt. Back to packs, baby. And collector packs, they're fine. They just do their job, you know. Some people want a high roll. That's fine. So, the important thing about the play boosters, 15 slots. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the first 6, all guaranteed commons of the set. Slot number 7 is 85% or 87%. I think it's like 7 and 8 versus 1 and 8. It's going to be either a common of the set or a list card. And so you have a chance for slot 7 to be, every 8th pack, I believe, is supposed to be a list card.
Right. And so a lot of people online have been like freaking out about being like, well, how is the list going to fit into drafting? Let's relax. 7 times out of 8, it's just going to be another common.
Yeah, and honestly, they do cover what the list is going to look like in the future. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's going to be better. I think people don't realize it yet, but they're going to. 8 through 10 in the slots are uncommons. So that kind of more or less aligns with where we were with draft packs, except for less commons so far.
Yep, 3 uncommons is the same as it's been.
Right. And then slot number 11 is your guaranteed rare or mythic of the set. So that's like the normal slot. Slot number 12, which is kind of weird for me, but slot 12 is the basic land now. So it's a little bit earlier in the pack, but whatever. Slot number 13 is the non-foil wild card. Keep in mind, these wild cards are from the main set. So this will be a non-foil anything in the set. And that's where the could be up to 4 rares comes from. Your list slot can be a rare. Your rare mythic slot is obviously a rare. This 13th wild card slot can be a rare. And then the 14th slot is the foil wild card, which could also be a rare. And this is also from the main set. I should also add these are regular foils. There's no chance of these being showcase foils, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think I remember reading in the article that the foil slot was traditional foil. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too worried about it, but that's your up to 4th rare. And then slot 15, they combined all the garbage slots into one. So you get the token, the helper card, the art card, or the ad card, because we all want the ad card instead of the free pack on Arena that I can scan my QR code for. See? Looking at you guys. Pretty easy fix. With that being said, that's the breakdown for what the packs look like, and honestly, this is solid. I will get into the listing in a moment, but yeah, this foundation overall is like a really solid pack. It's going to be fun for people to open still, but I think this is going to be way better for Limited. And we've already been talking about how Limited is awesome. I think this opens the ability for the design team to go ham on making Limited even better. So I'm excited to see what better than Wilds of Eldraine Limited looks like.
Yeah, so I have thoughts on that. I don't think that it's right with everything that is going on in the Twitter sphere. I'm not really worried about this. Like a lot of people are like freaking out. I'm not freaking out. I don't think this is going to change much. What I do think is that you may have some drafts have a couple more filler commons than you did before, just because you're getting one less per pack or one less card per pack, and they're just making less comments.
Yeah, that's actually important that you mentioned that, because I had written in the script, but later on in the article they cover that specifically. People were like, well, there's less cards now. What's the play? Well, the design team has already kind of taken that into account, and they're saying, from their perspective, they're saying, we plan on making better commons and less jank commons, which we've kind of already seen already with no vanillas at all, which is beautiful. But they plan on making the cards less jank, so you just don't have those. Even in Wild Train, there are cards that are like unplayable.
Unplayable.
And you'll never draft them. They're always the last card in the pack. If that card didn't exist, literally nobody would know. And so their goal is to make way less of those cards. And in addition, one of the other fears was, there's more rares, so there's more potential for these bomb rares. Like, what's a bomb rare we can think of that would just end a limited format? Like usually a Planeswalker, Realm Scorcher, Hellkite, cards that like when they resolve in limited, you're like, I'm gonna win. And people are like, well, that's gonna happen way more often. And so another answer to quell the fears is that they plan on also making these commons and uncommons better equipped to deal with the rares. So like if a rare is like a really powerful card, the design team said that they're going to acknowledge that as a powerful card and try to make removal spells that either are targeted for that card or better equipped. Like we might see more generic removal spell, like kill any creature for 4 mana, stuff like that. That's just good in draft, but maybe not good in constructed, just to keep the formats more balanced. If an enchantment is busted, you'll be sure to see that there's going to be some good enchantment removal. I think I like that in general because, one, that kind of means that the formats have to have more removal in general, which I think is good for limited to have like relatively good removal in every color. But also that opens the design for the window for the design team to kind of make these really cool removal spells we might start seeing for Pioneer and even Modern, where like, hey, maybe they make something along the lines of like, I believe the card is called Break the Spell. 1 mana instant, destroy an enchantment. And if it's your enchantment or a token, you get to draw a card.
I believe that is correct.
So
there is an extra ability when you target your own.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think it's also for tokens because I want to say you can target your opponent's bolts as well. But one of the things I like about that card is just it's like a generic, 1 mana disenchant, nothing special about it, but it has that upside. It's kind of special. And sometimes I actually play it in my limited decks when I have just not enough good white cards. I'm like, I don't mind playing this. It kills a roll. I might just cheese.
Right, and especially when you're playing in white and you play other cards like Princess Takes Flight, where you're like, I'm going to destroy my own enchantment so that you exile your creature, and then I'm going to draw a card off of it with its extra ability. That's when it does become like, this was meant for something very specific.
Exactly.
The only thing is that, right, if we do go back to the one set of limited that was like kind of bad in this past year, which was Streets of New Capenna.
Like almost 2 years ago now, but yeah.
Yeah. Within the last 2 years of like limited that we've been talking about, there was a strict color imbalance.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is that like with less cards in the format, I think that hopefully they will not have a challenge with like making sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it could. If there are less cards in the pool, and again, we always keep saying black is really good because Wizards just loves black, and so do we. So yeah, that's my only other concern is like if they do have a hard time, or if they with less cards in the format, could that mean more color imbalance or less color imbalance? Kind of to be seen.
It is a good qualm, though. I think it is it's important to hold their feet to the fire, if you will, to like make sure that they keep the formats good. If they keep making limited powerful, I kind of so far I'm like giving them some leeway. Like, hey, I trust you guys. You've so far been nailing it.
Yeah.
If less cards also kind of means you're pushing the power level, so like there's less cards that are overwhelmingly powerful and completely unplayable, and more really medium cards. I think that's also going to be like a way to help balance out the colors and not let one color be way too powerful. In general, though, yeah, I agree. Hopefully they don't mess it up, but we have a foundation for what could be potentially something really cool, especially with the next thing that they announced as well. Slot number 7, the common slot that has the list card. One of the cool things about it is that the list is going to be updated. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but if you haven't, Caverns of Ixalan has something called special guests. They don't have play boosters though. So Special Guest is debuting in Cavern of Ixalan, but it's going to continue to be a thing for all future play boosters. And that Special Guest is going to slot in to the list for play boosters, where you will have 10 cards that are Special Guests. I believe it was 10, and they will have new artworks. So they might have a way to sneak in cards that kind of like belong in the format. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the Enchanted Tales being like, oh, some of these enchantments play so well with the designs for like Golgari Food, or like I've had decks where I'm playing Golgari Food and I get a Griffin Aerie. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like the Abzan Food enchantments thing just works. And you're like, gain through life, make a 2/2. Gain through life, make a 2/2. And it just gets gross. So I've had decks like that where I'm playing food, but it's only for my enchantments. And then I'll have like Archon of, I forgot the name of it, but it's a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, and all your enchanted guys fly and have base power 4/4.
Archon of the Wild Rose.
Yes, Archon of the Wild Rose. So that card being so powerful in like enchantments, but Griffin Aerie popping some guys for you that you can have auras for, and then in general just like having only food for like a Griffin Aerie, but then the rest of your deck is like the Orzhov deck in theory. Really, really cool. So this list slot kind of lends itself to be like I'm going to sneak in some cards into the format that are deserve to be here, or just like awesome. Like we might see some old card that just never gets played anymore. Maybe you'll see it in Commander, but in this limited format, we're playing it. So I'm excited about that. And then the other thing is they're chopping the list down. So the list was like 300 something cards. Really ridiculous, but whatever. So many of the cards on the list were just dog. The list now is 40 cards. So we have 30 uncommon or commons and 10 rare or mythics, not including the special guests.
Sure.
So that means that they're going to have a more catered list for the draft formats going forward. They're going to try to make these cards specific to draft, but also something that people are going to want to see when they open. Maybe they're going for enchantments again, so they want to put Smothering Tithe in there, So like they did previously.
Yeah. I'm curious how they'll do that, at least from an art perspective, because I know that they have to make new arts so that they don't have to like reprint arts from the old artist and being able to pay them.
The list specifically should be all the same artworks.
Yeah, I just mean like the Enchanting Tales the new artifacts that we'd seen and their different borderings and it's stuff like that where they like need to have new art treatments. And that's what I wonder too is like, right, even though that some of these lifts cards, right, and there are going to be 40 of them, and they're going to be and the design team is going to make sure that they fit into the format well. How is it going to work when we get 2 sets down? Like, are they going to be great for every limited format? Because this limited format is very different from the last one that we had in and Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the list? I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're changing it every set now.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have mentioned.
That makes more sense, because I was like, if it's just 40 and it's going to stay 40...
Well, it's 40 cards, but previously with the list, it was like 300 cards, but they would rotate it. They would like change like 20 cards every set.
Okay,
These are coming off, these are coming on. So now it's going to be a whole like catered list for that set, which I think is pretty cool. But they said they were going to have more announcements going forward just to like give us more details about it. Obviously, we don't have the full story, but this is like 99% the breakdown.
Yeah, I think that'll be good for the limited format. And I think it's going to be similar to what we have now. The only thing I'll miss is like the flavor of what we've been able to do in this past set. It's like Brothers War bringing back old artifacts was really cool, because Wilds of Eldraine is along like these famous fairy tales that we've seen before, like Hansel and Gretel, and then Enchanting Tales looking in similar art form to that. Not seeing like, unless they're gonna figure out a way for these wild cards or the list or whatever to also do that. I'll just miss that flavor piece from a Magic perspective.
I definitely
Nothing
agree.
to do with the gameplay.
I feel like the special guest slot really has to hone in on what you're talking about to keep that energy. Because the special guests for Caverns of Ixalan, if you guys haven't seen, are like, it's escaping me. Not Godzilla, the other dinosaur movie.
Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park. Thank you.
Amen.
Sorry about that. So Jurassic Park is the special guest features for Caverns of Ixalan, which is awesome because we had Godzilla cards for like Ikoria, if you guys remember, and they did a really good job with Ikoria, and then they were like fumble the bag for like every other secret layer and set afterwards, and now we're kind of going back to that special treatment where the card has a name, but it has a sub name, whatever. The special guests though look really awesome, and I think, like we said, if the special guests for future sets are not going to be Universes Beyond, they really have to be catered to like that energy of keeping the themes going, really going, oh, this set is about this, and you're going to clearly see it and understand it.
I agree, and I'm hoping that that's where that ends up.
Yeah, for sure. One less card in the pack, the list in your draft slot, and so we're gonna see some interesting stuff. I guess we'll know more in the future. Potentially, there might be a price increase too. So if you guys are wherever you play Magic, seeing your LGS tell you they might have to increase the set prices. I don't know if they're going to change the price of the boxes yet. Like the play booster might be more than the set booster. Maybe it might be the same price as a set booster and they just delete set boosters. But in general, your drafts are going to be more expensive because the draft boosters were already cheaper than the set boosters. And I think they're going to be coming up to what the set booster was at the minimum.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the article had mentioned, was that play boosters are going to be the same price point as set boosters.
Right.
And so you can just expect that draft will go up in price for most of them.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if that means the box as well because it's 36 packs again. I hope they aren't too stingy about it and like really bumping the price up. I would like to keep the boxes in the price range of like around 130 for the players, but we'll see how it goes in the future. With that being said, though, if you do get a box, at the very least, it will be way more valuable. 36 packs, up to 4 rares per pack, a lot more juice in the boxes, and maybe we'll see box toppers make a comeback.
And I want to mention with that, because I think that it's important for listeners to know, like especially ones that really like set boosters. That's what I feel like this lot, 13, 14, the non-foil wild card, the foil wild card. I think that those slots specifically were meant to be like, hey, those of you that love set boosters, we're taking them away, but we're putting these in specifically for those people that really like set.
Yeah.
So I think that they are intentional with trying to throw the set booster people above.
Oh, for sure. I think Studio X's data said that specifically the up to 4 rares thing was by far the most popular part about the set boosters, and that most people didn't care about the theme thing, which is why they were willing to get rid of connected cards altogether. So I think overall, this is a good spot. If they make an improvement in the future, I guess, but I really would like to see less pack changes. This is already a big W for consolidating the packs. One of the things Mark Rosewater mentioned in the issues was that people are just confused about what the products are, and when Magic announces the products, they have 2 or 3 times more things to type and talk about, explaining what all the packs are. Like, oh, you can get Beseech the Mirror in this pack, but you can get Beseech the Mirror foil extended art in this pack. Oh, but you can't get the confetti foil in that pack. You have the
surge foil.
The surge foils in this pack, but then the Commander deck has this special pack, and that special pack has extended art One Rings. And so, you know what I mean? Like it's way too much. Collector packs. We're done.
Yeah, and I think that's good too, because you mentioned a little bit about distribution issues with like in Latin America, but if we just go like in a non-saturated area and we go to like Iowa or something,
100%.
And the store owner, and you talk about this, Todd especially talks about this, where okay, when you say, hey, to your distributors, I think that we're going to sell this many of set boosters, this many of draft boosters. If you don't end up selling those, just have product that's sitting around that you've already paid for, that you're out that money for.
Right.
So if you have smaller stores that maybe don't have a draft community that have to go, okay, well, I have to decide what I want.
100%. And like you mentioned, you have to be really strict with those numbers, because if you're a small store, and I don't really consider us a big store either. We're pretty small time for obviously the blessings we have and the amount of people we have. I love our community, but we're pretty small compared to like maybe a Pastimes or Nerd Rage or even like a Star City Games, you know, Channel Fireball. These guys are enormous,
Huge.
The ability to like mess up an order is scary, and so like you mentioned, a lot of small stores will just like stop ordering draft boosters and just like order the one case or whatever. We kind of have like our numbers locked down where we are blessed to have a lot of limited players that love limited. They're willing to play every week, and it makes me nervous to like have the price go up, you know. But I was hearing, so one of our friends and one of our patients, actually Christian, they are in the Navy, so they're in Okinawa, Japan. Shout out to our listeners in Japan. Pretty cool. But they mentioned how Josh was in Texas before he had gone to Japan, and when he was down there for like half a year, he was meeting people, going to local magic shops, and they were like struggling to get players. They were like, "Oh, limited's dead." Like Josh would message me and be like, "Hey, is limited dying? Hey, what's your opinion on this? Is this format dying?" And this would be because he sees his friends on Facebook from Texas or other smaller areas that maybe that one area of, I think it was San Antonio, doesn't have a lot of magic scene going. It's hard to like get the energy going when it's all like faded and people feel defeated.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, we've been feeling that with Pioneer since it's taking a break from an RCQ standpoint. And even though the format is balanced, brewing kind of happened recently with Wild of Eldritch. But because of Lord of the Rings, there's no brewing for like 2.5 months. So I think people got a little tired of it before Wilds. And so it's just been having a downtick and a downtick at other stores in the area. Is it going anywhere? No. But it's the same concept of like, it is kind of defeating when you really love something and you're like, there was a store I went to every Wednesday to play Pioneer.
Yeah.
We kept getting 3 people, and then the store owner would play with us, and I was like, this is like 40 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna not play or play online.
And it's really unfortunate because like maybe the 2 other players there are kids and they live 2 minutes away from the shop and they can't afford to go somewhere else or they don't have cars, you know, so like having a store in your area is really hard already. Like we're lucky where we live. Some areas, I've seen some areas have no game store for like 100 miles, which is like, damn, that sucks. And like, there's definitely nerds in that area that want to play Magic and meet each other. It's just like, it's important to like definitely foster your community and keep everything going. So, with that being said, that's the update with the play packs, and I think we're excited about it going forward. The only other thing I would say is that we still have to talk about some standard, I guess.
Yeah, we should talk about some standard. I will say, as like a fun piece of this, I am worried that because the ad, token, helper, art card are all in one, it's going to be really hard for cards like Ashiok in this new set. Being like, oh man, I need 2 of those tokens, and then what happens if I tick down again? Plus, I know you're thrilled because you're like
tokens all the way.
Yeah, well, more Boarhat tokens, and probably our token box will get cleaned up now. But it's gonna be like for pro play, you're supposed to have like the tokens, or like competitive, you're supposed to have the tokens, not the back of the QR code.
Yeah. I will say this though, for competitive play, because the Boarhat tokens have like the rules text and everything, they are like allowed and they're good to go. So that's why I'm really happy with the way Todd and I have been getting the tokens going. You obviously gave us some suggestions for certain artwork so far.
And they'll keep coming.
We're just going to keep it going. If you can't get your tokens, just hit us up, sub to the Patreon. We'll ship you some tokens.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing we didn't mention about Play Boosters to wrap it up is that Play Boosters will go into effect for the Karlov Manor.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be Ixalan, Ravnica Remastered, Karlov, Hello Play Booster. So we have like 2 sets before Play Boosters are in effect.
Oh, yeah. And also,
one of them's not a standard.
I think Lord of the Rings Remastered or the final whatever is coming in December as well.
No, Ravnica Remastered.
But Lord of the Rings too. There's a reprint of it.
Already?
Well, not like a reprint. I think it's like the final wave of it.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, bring down the price of my One Ring.
Yeah, exactly.
I need a few more.
That's one of the main things. People are like, we still need One Rings. They are $60. I want to say, like, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm still. I mean, as a store, we didn't order a ton of it because it's like, hey, we already did Lord of the Rings. We're kind of done with it, but obviously we have to have some amount of it. But for hitting your singles, I think people are going to be happy that this is a thing.
Help me out, man.
Exactly. But yeah, like you said, Lord of the Rings in December, Red Ring Remastered, Caverns of Ixalan, which is like what 2 or 3 weeks away now. I think the next podcast we do is going to be us talking about pre-release and getting you guys ready for what the limited format is going to look like. So get ready for that update and get ready to take some notes. We'll try to do it on video again and have some cards up.
Yeah,
I don't know what this looks like, but
yeah, poor Todd. You're gonna have to have like 4 pages ahead of time of like, we're talking about this card, then this card, then this card, then this card.
And I'm gonna have to know their names.
Yeah, no, he won't.
I'm gonna print it out. That's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, so I guess let's talk about some standard for a little bit, since we're already on topic.
So one of the things I wanted to mention is that I've also been playing more standard, and there was a deck that I was playing strictly, and I was like, okay, it started to dip in play percentage on Goldfish, and I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put in these cards, and I'm going to ramp towards it a little faster, and I'm still going to play the deck.
Are you still talking about Invasion of Alara?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still talking about the Cascade deck, and I was like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to power through. And then it was like Thursday, Friday, where I was playing on, Arena, and someone dropped a turn 2 Dennick, and I was like, this shuts off my whole deck.
Yeah.
And
Dennick is everywhere right now.
Everywhere. And so I pivoted. I'm off of Cascade because Dennick has ruined my life.
If Esper Legends was not so good, and it is very good, I think your deck would be more playable, but because you can't hit that Cemetery Trespasser guy or whatever his name is.
Well, not only the Cemetery Desecrator. But Bramble Familiar. The whole deck is centered around you cascading into the 7 drop cost of Bramble Familiar,
right.
And then you mill 7, bring a card back from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then I shuts that off too. Yep. So it's like, okay, I'm just playing 5 color, play my creatures on curve.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Really bad. But Legends, though, kind of exciting, especially with Cavern of Souls coming in Ixalan. I know we're not in Ixalan yet, but man, I'm excited for Cavern of Souls.
How will that work, though? Because
right now the deck has like human Phyrexian as like the main creature types, but it might let you expand into other things. Like your Cavern of Souls don't all have to name the same creature type. It's not like Modern where it's like only humans. All my Rainbow lands name humans. If you have Plaza of Heroes and then Cavern of Souls in combination with the rest of your lands, it should really uncounterable.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine. I think it'd be fine with Plaza of Heroes, but I'm thinking like that deck also plays Skrelv, and that which is like, oh, I guess it is a Phyrexian.
Yeah,
it's a might. Got it.
Right, so you have like Glissa Sunslayer now can fit into Esper Legends with Cavern of Souls.
What also is what is Rafine? Scheming Seer.
I can't remember what Rafine is
from a card type perspective.
I don't remember. Maybe he was a human.
No, it's a bird. It's a Sphinx.
I have no idea. I just remember seeing a lot of humans in Esper Legends specifically.
Yeah, because the combo is around like Rafine, and then being able to put 1,000,000 counters on like Adelaine while you're swinging with a ton, and then Skrelv giving the protection, and then you are digging deep enough and then putting tons of counters on that huge creature.
Yeah, the version I play isn't doing Adelaine. I'm doing the rat guy.
Lord Skitter?
Cool. Yeah, Lord Skitter. Because you summon so many rats and you're conniving for like a million.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention the graveyard hate actually matters right now in the format. Like you were saying earlier about Atrexa being crazy. And you're like, Leyland Binding kind of checks her. From my experience, it's been like, there's just so much removal that checks her. And when I'm playing Mono Red, I love Mono Red right now in Best of Threes because people do not respect you. People don't respect Mono Red. They're like, oh, I got Herd Migration, I've got Dennick, I've got all this life gain. And then you're just like, Twisted Fealty? Thanks, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
the late game red cards for the mono red deck to like help you get there are really good. Koth is scary, Jaya is scary, Mr. Fealty is scary. Nahiri's Warcrafting is disgusting. Like, just gross. Kill your best guy, draw a card, like, okay.
Yeah, it's good. I today had a mono red opponent scoop to me because they like swung in with like a Phoenix chick that was buffed up and a Swift Spear.
Yeah.
And I had Dennick, and they were like, 1 mana open. And they're like, are you going to block? And I'm like, no. So then I drop Rafine and then immediately swing in, put a counter on Dennick, being like, I'm going to gain 3 life back.
Yeah.
Next turn, I'll block with Rafine because of Ward 1 and has 4 toughness.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to keep giving more counters to Dennick. And I did the same thing the following turn, instant scoop.
Yeah.
And I was like...
And Rafine is just so crazy. So, like, I wasn't a huge fan of Rafine for a while, especially when people were trying him in Pioneer. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, but man, now I really like him, and he gets scary. And he's one of the other cards like combos of Shield Trade, which is like, can I have for 6?
Right. Well, the Esper, there's 2 lists in Esper.
Yeah.
Esper, well, 3 lists in Esper.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4
Esper
Esper decks.
Control, there's Esper Legends, and then
Yep.
there's Esper
Mid-range, right.
And
then there's all the variants from there, like what's your poison and removal or not.
right. And Esper, regardless, you being able to like draw a bunch of cards with Shieldred is crazy.
Yeah.
And for me,
And even against them, you like drop a shield trick, they're like, where's my go for the throat?
yeah. Well, with you were mentioning that you don't use Adelaine, you use the Rat King.
Yeah.
Well, in the Esper mid-range list that I'm playing Wedding Announcement, which is making the dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Plus
I have Wedding Announcement as well.
the Rat King,
Yeah.
plus Rafine, and I had a game today where they had 3 creatures out, and I was like, don't matter.
Yep.
And I still swung over for like an extra 8 damage.
Yeah. Wedding Announcement is so crazy.
Wedding Announcement is crazy. I'm glad that I bought 4 of
Yeah.
like a long time ago.
It's just like, I had a game where I literally just went turn 3 Wedding Announcement, turn 4 Wedding Announcement, turn 5 Wedding Announcement, pulled up Make Disappear. And I was like, what is this deck? Like, I had so many 1/1s, and like my opponent's hitting me, I'm losing life, I'm like, I'm not really worried about it. If he counters anything that matters, I'll counter it. Doesn't. And then after all that, they're all flipped over, I'm like, cool, Virtue of Courage, or is that the right one? Virtue of
Loyalty.
Loyalty, that's the one. Virtue of Loyalty, and now all my guys are getting buffed every turn and untapping. It's just so crazy. A lot of enchantments, though, can be kind of scary.
Who knew? Enchantments, good and standard.
Yeah, right? But yeah, that's kind of been my experience. Has been playing Esper, similar lists, mono red. I'll play the ramp deck occasionally if I need like a daily. Like, oh, my daily is like cast every color in the game. Okay, well, I got you. 5 colors. But it's just so boring. And I really think, in my experience, Atraxa has been kind of mid. Like, I do think that she's a potential target for a ban. I don't think she will. Like, I think like it's a 1% chance for me right now that she gets banned. But that's 1% more than every other card in the format, you know. But whenever I'm playing her, I'm like, man, wow, I would just like rather have a Topiary Stomper or something. Her like impact isn't always immediate, and if they just kill her or steal her, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think that the biggest problem is in the deck's current iterations of like 4-color ramp, and I think ramp does the best job because you are ramping as opposed to control. But in those decks, you're usually like almost dead. And so you play Atraxa because you're like, this may get hit with removal, but I need the life gain. I need the life gain to stay alive.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can wait so you have even 8 lands so that you can have Atraxa, then have a Leyline Binding to grab something, even if you lose Atraxa, best case scenario, but you really don't want to be playing it like exactly when you get 7.
Right.
Because it's with other Leyline Bindings and Go for the Throats running around in the format, it is really easy for her to get popped.
Yeah, and even if she does get popped, you are drawing a bunch of cards, so like sometimes you just have to run it out. It's just, I agree, man, like, and I honestly, I think the ramp deck is, I get that it's good, but I'm just not about it. It's kind of reminds me of like 4-color in Modern. I'm just not about this deck. It's so mid. Besides Atraxa, all your cards suck. Like Topiary Stomper sucks. I like the card. He's cool, but he's no like. There's a dinosaur in Ixalan that lets you play extra lands. That's like so much better than this guy. Search like Rampant Growth Dino, whatever. Invasion of Zendikar. I hate that card. Every time I play that deck, I'm like, that's the first card I'm cutting. I don't even care if it's good in the matchup. I do not want this card. I hate Invasion of Zendikar. It's so bad. Who's ever flipping that card on purpose? You know. Topiary Stomper's fine. Bird Migration though, that card's cool. Bird Migration is cool. Early game, the ability to filter for any color, gain some life. Late game, domain payoff. The 3/3s can be scary, and you actually get a bunch of guys as opposed to like a Trexit just getting one shot by a Go for the Throat. Herd Migration's a cool card. So like that's kind of like one of the reasons I like the deck. Is like that card kind of keeps me in the game, but I can definitely see like different iterations of it being more playable. I get that Invasion of Zendikar is like explosive visitation, you're just getting the lands you need, but there's gotta be something else. Sunfall though, Sunfall's phenomenal.
Sunfall is cracked. That card is, I said when it got released, this card is gonna like replace the 4-drop blow up the fields.
Yeah.
And with so much recursion happening
The
now,
exile, yeah.
the exile really matters. And then you're like on top of it, you got a body. Small body, big body, doesn't matter. I got something else besides
that Incubate token ends games.
Well,
so many games are decided by that token.
Well, and I think with cards now like up the beanstalk, and you're like, I'm also gonna draw a card on top of it.
Yeah, it's like 4-mana field nuke. Apologies.
Yeah.
5-mana field nuke.
5-mana field nuke.
I'm kind of surprised too, like, with all the ramp going around, isn't Farewell legal? Like, nobody plays Farewell.
No, it's a sideboard card for me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it in any, like, sideboards. I know I'm playing Reed Duke's list right now still. I should probably update to, like, whatever I want to do, but...
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it's just
that was like a month and a half ago.
It's just solid. You know what I mean? And I'm still lazy to update 5 colors. It's just nothing about it is exciting for me. I'd rather play your Cascade deck.
Oh yeah, and at least you have the benefit of like being on the computer while you're doing it. Because for me, I'm
true.
like at rehearsal, and I have like an MTG Goldfish list that I sent to myself in a Facebook message. So I'm like flipping in between, being like, all right, what card do I need to type in now?
Yeah. And I'm spamming you like one message sentences. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
I actually downloaded Arena recently because Winter's always like, you're always out of the shop, come home. I'm like, okay. Coming home. I'm playing Arena on my phone, and you can pick the show. And then I'm like, oh my god, this sucks. I'm playing Mono Red. Like, this is terrible. How do you play Arena on your phone? I don't get it.
That's most of what I do.
That's like actually a ton of players. Like, I see people here at the shop, like Commander players, 40 Commander players in the shop, and then there'll be like a pod back there that's like waiting for a turn. Arena. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Here's your ad card.
Yeah, for me,
I'd love to hand out tokens. By the way, keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say I have to. Shoot, now I lost it.
All right, okay. I'll just say what I was gonna say. Like, Watsy, where are you with these free packs? Like, Pokemon gives you a pack or a free online pack, QR code, scannable, not like sitting there like, hold on, let me.
Well, you have to
You just type it out
in your Wizards account, so you can't even do it from the Arena.
No, you can do it in the store
App. I don't think you can.
I don't know on the app, but on the computer you can.
Yes, on the computer you can.
Which is already
but you
really
can't
terrible.
from the app.
Yeah, the app should have a QR code built in.
Are you kidding me? Whenever I'm looking at those cards, it's usually like after I've ripped a pack and I want to like enter that code immediately, right here in the store.
And before somebody bots it.
Yeah, God.
No, for sure. I it makes me so frustrated because WotC will not give us any like LGS ones. They won't even let us run tournaments. There's no spectator mode. It's just like Todd and I tried to run an online Arena tournament once, and everybody just had toasters. Like, hey, screen share your thing. Oh, never mind. We're streaming this. Like, where's the spectator mode? Where can I see both players' hands? You know, like. I don't know, man. There's so many things they do right, and then you're like, billion-dollar company, dumb. Like,
too poor.
Just give us LGS packs codes to hand out for people. If you really want them to play Arena that bad, I'd love to hand out free packs for people.
Yeah.
Hey, you played a Commander in the store, and you did the Commander code for Event Link. Here's your free Arena pack. Like, it's not that hard. You can't be losing like, oh, we're gonna lose so much money from that. No, you're not. Pokemon gives them away in every pack, and they still make hand over fist. I'm sure. It makes me so frustrated sometimes, but it is what it is. I don't think WotC's ever going to give up on the we're not giving away packs thing. They're like, you get one in a pre-release kit and one every 400 promo packs.
Father Hasbro's not making that.
Yeah, dude, Hasbro is the worst.
I feel like Hasbro's going to like creep in the window and be like, what are you saying?
Yeah, well, free packs? Oh. You guys want premium? You want WPM premium, huh? Sorry, WotC-sama, please. Play packs are awesome. We love the play packs. Please let us get premium.
The Pickertons probably came via Hasbro, not actually Wizards.
Honestly, true. Yeah. I was like, hey, we got them on speed dial. WotC's like, what?
Whoa,
like,
whoa, slow down.
We'll just call him. Oh my god. But yeah, like,
Zoom?
With that being said, I guess that's pretty much all we have for today. Standard is awesome. You should play it. If you're in the area, you should play it at the shop. We're doing Mondays.
And let me say, in addition to Mondays, I actually said this to 2 people at the RCQ. Like, oh, I gave up on Standard because, like, it got boring. Arena, it was dying. There's Lorcana here on Mondays. I don't want Lorcana to die. And I was like, just listen. Let me paint a picture for you. In February, the Pro Tour is coming here. There's going to be a 75K open for Standard.
Yes, sir.
We're going to bring a whole group of people.
Yeah.
Todd is doing the store. I'm so sorry, but we are
going to play Standard and paper. Ooh.
Actually, I told Todd, I was like, you should just close the store. Close the store. We're all going. We are all going and we're playing. So
I have Winter cover the shop.
Deal. If there's any reason to play Standard and you're in the area, it's because not only the RCQ season, but we're going to have a ton of fun playing it in person at this massive
awesome
event. Yeah, I've never been. I've usually been like, I already spent enough going to RCQs and stuff.
Have you seen the photos?
Oh, yeah.
Like, seeing people's videos at MagicCon, I'm like, there's what? They had what? What promos? They were giving out, like, they were giving away, like, I think it was 2 years ago, but they were giving away those Magic 30th things that nobody wanted, that everybody wants. Nobody wanted them. I wanted them. I would have gone. They were giving them away.
Yeah. And I want to win one of those big cards that people sell for like $500.
Yeah. Oh my God. Actually, the World Championships for My Hero, Nationals, I want to say, for My Hero's happening. So my friends that come to the shop are in the group chat posting their oversized cards of like all the My Hero characters. I'm like, dude, I want like a giant Chandra or like a Garrick or whatever is going on over here. You know? Giant cards are awesome. Yeah. They make really good decorations.
Agree. All right, well, that is our show. Shout out, as always, to Force Hack Gaming for allowing us to record in the store. Another additional shout out to Jamie or Todd, who is putting all of the stuff up on the screen and editing our audio in real time, fixing the gain, all of that business. We are so happy for this help because I've got a lot going on, and I just said I would not be able to do this, and I have a wife and the marathon, and I've got a.
Yeah, he has a marathon.
I would like to not lose my wife. Anyway, so big shout out to Todd for jumping in to help us out with this and helping us do more of these episodes.
Shout out to Nancy Steroids for the dope music.
Intro and outro music. Recently put out new music. Please go check them out on Spotify.
And you stream with the music on too, right?
I do stream with the music on. I have a whole playlist for it. Really great stuff. Also, shout out to MTG Chicago for doing videos here of the in-person Magic play. They just finally hit 1,000 subscribers.
Nice.
And I know some of you who have listened to the podcast also subscribe over there. Thank you so much for that. Now, if only you could give us some of that for like Twitch and YouTube as well.
Yeah,
please.
Some free follows on Twitch.
Yeah.
Make some bots too. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. But anyway, shout out to them as well. And did I miss anyone?
Trying to think. So Nancy Steroids for the music. Shout out Soar. Shout out Todd. Shout out Frankie is Mythic Unlimited. And if we're missing somebody, I'm gonna feel really bad.
I think that is it.
I think we're good, but if we miss somebody,
We'll get you next time.
I'll message you, man. I'll be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Please continue to listen to our content and be ready next time for us to have our pre-release notes for Ixalan. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.